the petition, I believe that the case is dismissed before filed against Apollo Quiboloy.
On the charges filed by the department against Apollo Quiboloy yesterday. At ano po yung possible impact, no? Possible impact ng isang extradition request ng US sa mga proceedings na ito, kung sakali.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Ma'am, for the update of the criminal case, is it okay if I defer to my colleague from the prosecution service? As to the extradition case, we'll just reply after Prosecutor Agnes has replied. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Mary Grace. Attorney Agnes, you have the floor, ma'am.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. With refers to the petition, I believe that the case is dismissed before filed against Apollo Quiboloy were initially, as per records of the DOJ, they were initially dismissed by the prosecution office in Davao City, and upon petition for review, the same was reversed, and the office of the secretary ordered the remanding of the case to the local prosecution office for the filing of the proper cases in the proper courts.
And these are cases for qualified trafficking and child abuse, is that correct?
We understand, Your Honor, that this refers to the two cases, particularly the child abuse and the trafficking in persons. We are not aware of the other cases that were initially dismissed by we are not aware of the status of the cases that were initially dismissed by the local prosecution office, which belongs to this batching of case.
So bukod po sa yung dalawang kaso, one each, I suppose, on child abuse and trafficking, meron pa pong ibang mga kaso na dinismiss noon sa Davao?
As per record of the case, Your Honor, if I may just read
Yes,
the
please.
records that we gathered from the local offices. We have the case for rape under NPS number 65, ending in 6556. And yes, there were 3, Your Honor.
So may tatlo pong kaso ng rape na dinismiss noon sa Davao?
No, Your Honor, there were 3 cases. One is for rape, one is for child abuse, and one is for trafficking in person.
So yung pangatlong kaso for rape was dismissed as well. Inappeal din po ba siya sa DOJ?
This, Your Honor, we have no knowledge of that particular, if there were any petitions filed before the Office of the Secretary, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am. And for the education of our committee, given the 2 cases now filed, will a warrant of arrest then be forthcoming?
Since, Your Honor, this is still in the processes of the Department of Justice, a warrant of arrest is not necessary.
So it's not necessary, but would it be forthcoming?
Unless and until that it will be filed in the courts, Your Honor, the court will issue a warrant of arrest for that matter.
Thank you, Assistant State Prosecutor, Attorney Agnes. So back to Senior State Counsel, Attorney Mary Grace, on the question about an extradition request.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. On the impact of the filing of the criminal cases here on the extradition request, first of all, just for the information of the body, we have yet to receive a request for the extradition of Mr. Quiboloy. If and when we receive one, once the cases are filed in our courts here, under our Philippines-US extradition treaty, the filing of a case is not a ground for refusal. It's merely a ground for the postponement of extradition. So that is discretionary on the part of the requested state, in which case the requested state has the option to either postpone the case, postpone the extradition, which the postponement may run from the completion of the prosecution up to the service of the sentence, or on the other hand, the requested state may also opt to file an extradition case, which can run in parallel with the prosecution case. If this happens, Your Honor, and the court grants the request for extradition, the requested state is then required to temporarily surrender the extraditee to the requesting state. Of course, subject to the condition that the extraditee will be returned to the requested state to complete the prosecution and service of sentence. Should the court impose a should the court find him guilty of the domestic cases filed here.
Maraming salamat, Attorney Mary Grace, for describing to us what may be the possible scenarios moving forward, whether unilaterally or parallel, given what may or may not be done under that treaty. And of course, maigi po at pinagpasalamat ng Chair yung pag-aksyon na ng Department of Justice. As well, friends, we have a copy of the Immigration Lookout Bulletin Order of the DOJ, memorandum of the Secretary to Bureau of Immigration Commissioner Tansinko dated 27th February. So maraming salamat din po para sa ILBO na ito. Thank you, ma'am. Salamat po sa DOJ.
Thank you
Ngayon,
also, Madam Chair.
thanks, ma'am. Ngayon naman po ilang mga tanong sa DMW at o sa DFA. Given po itong mga dagdag pong testimonya natin, lalo na kay Miss Reynita, no? Ano pong mga proteksyon ang pwedeng ibigay sa mga OFWs na who fall prey to these kinds of abusive activities? Is DMW with us today, Comsec? Wala sila, no?
Miss
So,
Bernadette.
oo. Mula sa DFA, Director Bernadette from the Office of Migrant Workers Affairs. If our OFWs fall prey to these abusive activities, what protections could they avail of po?
Ma'am, in the first place, if the abuses start from here in the Philippines, the DFA cannot be involved in that. It has to be our own agencies like the DMW and of course our law enforcement agencies. If we're talking about if they are already abroad and they fall prey to these matters, again, ma'am, they can report to the Philippine Embassy in Singapore, more specifically to the migrant workers offices if they are technically OFWs. If they are permanent migrants, then they fall under the responsibility of the DFA, the foreign service part of the embassy. The MWO is a unit under the Philippine Embassy. However, if the activities, the illegal activities are considered also being committed within the territory of Singapore, then the host government's agencies may also need to be involved. So there are many aspects to be studied regarding these cases, ma'am. But so far, we have not received any request for assistance from the OFWs or the permanent residents abroad regarding this matter. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you also, Director Bernadette. At saka at least narinig din po ni Miss Reynita. And in fact, she presented herself to our Philippine Embassy in Singapore para swear sa kanyang video testimony kanina. Kaya salamat na rin po at the start sa ating embassy sa Singapore. And at least narinig ni Miss Reynita na pwede pong humingi ng dagdag na tulong sa ating embahada doon kung sakali. Also, Director Bernadette, would the Philippine Embassy in Singapore be able to facilitate any assistance from the Singapore government's agencies to our OFWs like Ms. Reynita and others kung hiningi po nila?